Why, hello. My name is Randy Lewis. My Indian name Kayahan. Welcome to Wenatchee. We're filming this in Wenatchee right now at the Methow Valley Museum and Cultural Center, and I want to shout out and say thank you, Wenatchee. And there's a good reason why we're here, because it's the kind of the genesis for a lot of people that went to the Methow. All my life, I knew we were Wenatchee. I was kind of confused. I mean, we were Moses, Columbia. We were Wenatchee. We were Methow, and plus Entiat, plus Chelan. We were truly a confederated family, representing all of the tribes practically. And so we left here in 1960 and moved to the Methow. And I really grew attached to that area because my grandfather was very familiar with the area, very connected to it. And we lived right under the base of what we call Shoyauto, Billy Goat Mountain. And growing up, my great-granddad, Sam Miller, lived there. And I lived with him until he passed away. And so I would see the world as a little kid through their eyes, through my great-grandma, Sishir, and my great-grandfather, Sam. And they had a different perspective and a different view of what had happened. But I guess the one thing that I can say is I never grew up with hatred. As much as they went through, as much hell as they saw, as many loved ones as they saw murdered, disposed of, and just cast off as unnecessary, they never hated. That was amazing, because your whole life is different when you're not consumed by anger and hatred. I had a lot of reason to be angry, but we weren't. So growing up in the Methow was kind of, or for a period of my life, it was the Jerusalem of our people. It was the Holy Lands for us, because the Methow people never surrendered. They never surrendered. They never surrendered their land. They were driven off from it. It was taken from them. And so this diaspora, I'd say, that affected us, they were literally driven off and cast out there. Make your own way. I come from a very resilient, very pragmatic, very hardy, well-thought people, very analytical about things. And they understood what was going on, but it's like, what you cannot change, you must endure. And that was the feeling that we had. That doesn't mean we gave up everything. We retained our sense of culture, we retained our language, we retained the sense of everything, I guess, walking in the way of our people and being in a good way with everything that is, was the testament of who we are. The ceremonies, the sacredness of the land. We were a river people. We were connected to the fishery, to the Methow fishery, to the Columbia fishery. And there was a seasonal migration that would come from the Methow down here to Wenatchee, to Badger Mountain, to Moses Coulee, to dig roots, to exploit the resources that were in abundance. And I grew up with that. So growing up in the Methow, back to this, I lived with my grandparents, my great-grandparents. It was a truly extended family, Indian family. We had great-grandparents, great-aunt, grandparents, mom and dad, gazillion kids, seemed like all the time. They were in the business of raising children, and that was basically the wealth of a family. My grandmother used to say, the wealth of an Indian family is not just how many kids and what you're able to provide for your kids, but how many grandparents you have alive. It's part of the family, mixed in with the family. Great, and if you have great grandparents, or you were very wealthy, because you had all of this knowledge, all the culture being shared, or how'd you say it, being practiced. Because as I recall, I was never really taught anything. You learn by being a participant in your family. And so we gathered every year to celebrate these gifts that the Creator gave us, whether it be the salmon, the deer, the mountain goat, the mountain sheep, the bear, all of that. And we gathered in the springtime to go out and gather and collect all these foods. Chachlosha, etqua, spatlam, shiaya, all these Indian foods, plus our medicines. And then to honor the Creator and for all these plants and animals, we would gather and have a true Thanksgiving in the fall time, and we would put them to rest. We would acknowledge them and then say, it's time now for you to rest, but know that you're being respected. So much of that we got in the Methow. So much, there was such abundance. We never grew up poor, because how could we call ourselves poor when we could put a half-a-sided deer venison on our table, and a salmon, and a pile of root vegetables, berries. During the Depression, we fed our white neighbors because they did not know how to take care of themselves. The first Depression in the 1800s, they would have died here in the Wenatchee if it wasn't for the Indians, and they would have in the Methow too. So what does the Methow mean now? Well, the Methow means the same thing and more, because more and more, as time goes on, we have to make greater steps to procure our foods, to procure our minerals, to procure our medicines. So we have more responsibility in being respectful, thankful for all of these things. If you get to know Methow people, they're cautious. They like to joke. They like to laugh. They like to tease each other. They like to raise hell with total strangers. But they've got great heart, and they will share without being asked. They will share information. They'll share food. They'll share what they have. And these are the people they were created by the hardships that the Methow always presented. In the Methow, your greatest enemy was not other tribes. It was nature. It was the greatest adversary. They became masters and very competent at dealing with that. So today we look out and we see the Methow being turned into a version of Disneyland. It's becoming the playground for the rich. And the situation that this country is in, the situation that this valley, the situation of the Methow Valley, is a direct reaction to what maybe you shouldn't be doing. Like, God, we were up there this summer and it was like the cars parked beside the roads, a mile and a half from the trailhead, all the way. It was like the lemmings, the March of the Lemmings. There were more people there than you see at the Seattle Center in Seattle, all hiking up there, marching into there. And we stopped to go up and check on huckleberries. Well, the bushes were totally ravaged. There was nothing left. They picked every berry out of there. But we did find a lot of garbage. Picked up a lot of toilet paper, stuffed it in bags. It's like, do they not, people not respect the thing that they're here to see? Obviously not. I guess you could say there are things in the Methow that this world would just love to expropriate from us. But we have our allies too. Allies being some of those same people that I said are guilty of despoiling. They are some of the same people who will help block it. So we don't need to be. We got to be very, we're very cognizant of the fact that we need to protect our fish. We need to protect the fish. We need to protect the animals that live within our areas, our boundaries, because we're as bound to them as they are to the land. We grew our strength from them. We learned our medicines from the bear. So much of the lessons we learned in life, life's living lessons, we learned from nature. Matter of fact, I'd say all of them. And so it's best we protect that. So if the Methow is to survive in a good way, they better start listening to the first people, because that's not a reflection upon how we viewed it and how we treated it, or how we view it and treat it to this day. So we're still here. Ask us.